You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Marlon Joseph.
Yes.
So, Marlon, please inform everybody, serve them up what you do professionally and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, first, a little bit about myself. I was born in the Caribbean, an island called Antigua, and it's pretty small. It's 108 square miles, and I think the population can be, the whole population's less than 100,000 people. So that could fit into a football stadium. And I spent most of my time in Queens, New York. Went to school in Buffalo, and I currently live in South Florida. So that's a little bit about myself. And then what I do professionally, I'm a professional busy person.
A professional busy person. How so?
So I do several things. So when I first moved here, I started doing screen printing and embroidery, and I still do that to this day. And I service, I service businesses and things like that. I also got back into serving. I've been a server for a long time, and I still do that a few nights a week. And I do a podcast on the restaurant business called the Modern Waiter Podcast. And go ahead.
When it comes to serving, you're serving up a lot of information, but what types of stuff do you serve? Like just being the modern day waiter?
As far as serving, I work at a restaurant, and it's a seafood restaurant. And previously, I've been in the restaurant business for a long time. So the Modern Waiter podcast is really highlighting the working in the business as a viable source of income, a viable career.
Yeah, a lot of people just look at like, oh, you want to work yourself up from there and become maybe a top chef or something. I'm like, but they had a start. They started off as a busser, then they moved up from a busser to a waiter. You know, my cousin was a waiter, still is over the summer. And, he goes to college and does that on like his side. That's his main kind of passion. But with serving, like the tips he brings home some nights, I love the restaurant business on the concept of there's so many working parts to it. But I also think tipping shouldn't be a thing. I think that waiters and waitresses should definitely get a viable source of income when it comes to just getting a paycheck. Like you guys make basically like $350 and you guys depend on tips some nights.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure where I land on the tipping, no tipping thing. We don't discuss tips generally on the show. It just really goes through all these different aspects that I find interesting that other people may find interesting as well. But to expand on the tipping thing, I would not be opposed to getting rid of it and just having it be a profession that is, paid on agreed upon wage and things like that, because it could be confusing for guests to disseminate what your worth really is, what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's literally like, you want to have, when you're a waiter, you want to be, or a waitress, you want to have good serving techniques, such as you want to be able to like kind of communicate and connect with the client. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been to a restaurant. There's a dude walks up with like 1,000,000 buttons on his shirt and has all these stickers, and he's giving me the okay attitude. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Oh, can I get you a drink? Can I get you a beverage? And they stop by every 2 minutes. I'm like, I'm in the middle of a story, man, and yeah. I don't go out to eat ever. But I just went recently with my grandfather. It's been 4 years since the last time I went out to eat, so this was like a big thing for me. I'm a bit of a fitness freak, so I'm more about like, I'd rather just eat at home and make my own meals so I know what I'm consuming. Okay. And so we're going to this, I live in a seafood town, so we're at a seafood restaurant. Fucking $30 for a crab cake. I was like bruh, that's my grocery money for the week. And he's just like, oh, I'm retired. This is like, fuck you money. And just starts kind of throwing it on the table. He's like, we'll get an order of crab cakes. I was like, all right. So we're sitting there and I'm in the middle of a story, kind of talking to him a little bit about like with the podcast and stuff, what I've been doing, you know, trying to get school back going. And he just literally goes like about to say something. And this kid comes up and goes, all right, I'm going to get your refill on your beverage, and just cuts him off. I'm like, whoa, like that's like very kind of inappropriate a little bit too.
It's certainly, I mean, it speaks to what the vein of the business can be. Almost anybody does it, but not everybody can do it. And not everyone is trained properly. And you really should be, you know, there for the guest as they need you. Sometimes I approach a table, I don't even say a word. If I'm going to get that refill on the drink, I just, you know, discreetly reach around and I put a new one on there, you know?
Yeah, sometimes you got to do it like so you don't have to ask. You just kind of place it there, and then the person goes, "Oh, thank you." Like I always give my manners and respect, and I understand the kid's just trying to, you know, get through the day and all this stuff. But it was like I've also seen waiters and waitresses that just sit there on their phone and they just look over at you. Do you need anything? I'm like, you're not even going to get up and ask.
True. You're going to get all kinds. And I guess that's where it comes into, I'm assuming that, you know, the way that our current system of getting paid is, you know, the good ones are going to get noticed and tipped, so to speak. But if you get away from it, the industry is going to be forced to really train and hire professional servers, because if you get terrible service and you're already paying for it and you have no other recourse, that's a part of the price, you're going to not go there anymore.
That's interesting because I think the weird part about like just restaurants in general is you are basically hiring people sometimes, at least most of the time, they don't have a lot of experience with serving. Usually when it's like a winter place or it's a seasonal type job, like if it's just over the summer, they just hire people like random, like we'll get foreigners and stuff that'll come down here and they'll hire them. These people are, you know, they can speak English, but not very well, but it's all about having a good sense of communication. Like someone walks in, sits down for their interview, and if they're very talkative, very good at, you know, creating a good environment and like a friendly face, you know, someone that you can feel like I could talk to this guy, you know, I wouldn't mind if this person got me drinks, you know,
Mm-hmm.
That's the good style. I also have, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you probably got countless restaurant stories, but I remember being a kid, there was this place called Boomers. So it's like a sub shop and they serve pizza and stuff. This woman, it was not anywhere close to Halloween. I swear to you. I'm sitting down with my family. I order a sub. This woman comes over with so much makeup on her face that it looked literally like a mask. And it was supposed to be like a retro diner. And I would just give her tips just to stay away from the table. Like I was telling her, like, Dad, I'm scared. And he's like, me too. And I'm like,
she's got the clown face makeup on.
yes, dude, exactly. Like I was like, damn, she laid the lipstick on thick. She freaking, but I understand because, you know, my mom was a waitress. My mom did this and like, you know, it's always crazy because they work insane hours. I remember my cousin this past summer was working doubles all the time. You know, he'd come home at 2:00 in the morning, brew up a pot of coffee, then go right back out to work the next day. And then some days he would be like, dude, I made hundreds of dollars in tips today. I was like, no way. So he'd be like, I'm treating us. And he's the type of guy that pays $9 for a coffee.
Oh, come on now. That's crazy.
I'm with the dollar McDonald's coffee. That's fine with me. I'll take that and go. And then, but he's like, I want the double pump and all this stuff. But then like he would go out and treat us and everything to like a dinner or something, or he would like bring some food home, like desserts, or order something like takeout. And then there would be days he would get cut early because they had no one. And then he'd be sitting there like, I need to get a new job. I need to get a new job. And it's like, we live in a summer town. So this summer, like we live in a tourist attraction spot. So everyone's coming down here and it's right by the beach. So everyone's eating there, you know, late nights. That's where he got a lot of his business. But then like in the beginning and then also in the end of summer, it was dying off. And he was like, I'm not making as much. And I was like, dude, you could be making way more in tips. If you just
Yeah.
went to one of our local restaurants down like in our community with there's nothing but elderly people here, and they're
Mhm.
all going there every single day to eat out at these restaurants. So they know their client, like they know the person that's serving them. You adopt a clientele, and then that's where the money comes in.
Yeah, I mean, waiters are notorious for being like, they walk that high wire, right? Um, Especially down in South Florida, it's a little seasonal as well, and but not to the degree where you completely fall off. It's slower, but that's where most people take vacations and things like that. And those who really want to make it, they'll make it. But for the most part, during, let's say, November to just past like just about Mother's Day is the mark of it. We get a lot of snowbirds and things like that, and we walk that tightrope all the time, as far as not having a steady income and holding on for that lean time in the summertime. But you know I take vacation, and you save those nuts, so to speak, in the winter time.
Yeah, I think it all really relies on the day too, because some days you'll get like, a good day, you'll get someone that'll maybe tip, 60, $80 or something just because they just felt like you deserve it or you're in a spot or something. But, what I've started to do was I don't really eat out, but I will go to a restaurant, sit down, and then get like a drink or something, or I'll sit at the bar, not
Hmm.
order, any alcohol or anything. I'll just get like, can I get a diet soda or a water? And they're like, oh, okay. And then they'll hand me one, and I'll just sit there. I'm like, so what's your name? And I'll just strike up conversation. And they're looking at me like, they're like, you're 21 years old. Like, why aren't you just going out to bars right now and getting hammered? And I'm like, cause I'm more interested in like, you're a fucking bartender. You're a waitress. You get a lot of people coming in here, and I'm pretty sure you probably know some stories. And they're like, oh, I can tell you some stories. I'm like, yeah, let me know. Cause I ended up finding I was getting all this information about people that were in my area that I knew nothing about. Like, there was a person that's like lives 2 streets down from me. His name is Jim. I see him all the time, and elderly man, kind of a little
Hmm.
bit quiet guy. He literally used to work in film, like the film industry. Like he worked for Disney, he worked for all this stuff. I'm like, what? And like, how do you know this information? You're like, oh, he comes in here and orders, a side like a crab cake, some shrimp, and then he'll order this martini. And I'm like, what? Like, it was just like a whole vast thing of information, kind of like when you go to a barber shop and they're just sitting there ratting and gossiping the whole time.
Yeah, it's you meet people of all walks of life, and they're so interesting. And you realize that it's not just the doctor, lawyer, Indian chief are out there. It's so varied of how people make their money or how people spend their time and things like that. It's pretty crazy.
Do you recommend like someone getting into the industry and staying in it? I mean, you stayed in it.
I stayed in it, yeah, but I recommend people try it. Whether you stay or not is really up to you and your temperament. And it also depends on the style of restaurant. So we do several shows on managing your money, or we just did top 10 reasons to be a server, and then next week we're going to publish 8 reasons why being a server sucks. If you don't really have the temperament or the positive outlook on what it could do for you, waiters are notorious for bitching all the time, and that's kind of crazy. I'm a glass half full type of person, but it is what you make it. The same people that say they need money are the same people that want to leave early,
It,
and that I don't understand.
it's funny because when my mom was a waitress, I used to be a kid and I'd be like, hey, can you get me this? And she's like, I serve people all damn day. You can get yourself a bowl of Fruit Loops. And I'm like, damn. I was like, I think you just be used to it by now. But it was always crazy to see because like she would have like 30 drinks on a tray and be balancing it with one hand while carrying out something else in her other hand. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, it was just like she adopted that skill. Like she just learned how to do that. And it was always cool because, her being involved in the restaurant business at the start, like when I was a kid, she worked at this hotel, was a server, and also one of the people that seat others. And I would get to know everyone from the dishwashers as a little kid to sitting in the back by the chefs and them making burgers and stuff. Like, Rob, you hungry? I'm like, nah, I'm sick from school. So like my stomach kind of hurts. Can't really eat a whole lot. So like, we'll make you some soup fresh right there in front of me. And it was just, I saw a whole wide variety of it that every time I go into a restaurant now, I always think about that. Like, it's a community.
It really is. I mean, if you're lacking in, in the social aspect, go work in a restaurant and you immediately are going to know 80 people. And it's incredible because you're going to see people, like you said, from the kitchen, from the dishwashers. You'll learn that chefs have certain temperaments. The hostesses, they tend to be, hostesses, it's weird. They tend to be really young or really old. I don't know why, but it's always like that, that weird, disparity there. And then servers tend to be, you'll have a mix of age, but they're usually very similar in temperament. They're usually outgoing. They usually are people that take risks. They're usually people that love to have fun, usually people that like to drink and things like that. And, I know people in the business that don't drink, but the majority of them, every restaurant has their after hours, like after they get out of work, they go grab a drink at such and such bar and things like that. There are commonalities that if you go to like a restaurant in Denver, or you go to a restaurant in, Arizona, you're going to find similar personality types settling into the different roles.
Do you find that with technology and phones becoming such a part of people's life that it's making tipping and, first of all, as a waitress or server, just being able to connect with somebody really, really difficult?
No, I look at technology as I look at money, right? I think that technology amplifies who you really are. It's just as money. They say, oh, you win the lottery or you get a lot of money. If you're a jerk before, you're more of a jerk with money. And the same goes for technology. If you're, rude and aloof without the phone, you're going to be that way more so with the phone. And for me, if people don't want to connect, they don't want to connect. You kind of have to be all things to all people, which is where you get into trouble with, managing people's expectations. Some people want you to be there and some people want you not to be there. Some people want you to be, a jester, which I'm not. And some people want you to be, stoic and professional. And it's up to you to really read them. So, as getting back to the technology thing, I really don't mind. I mind it for me and my family, but I find that people are losing that pleasantries. They come up and they're on their phone and they're looking down, and I just wait. I don't acknowledge them until they look up, or I demand that attention because ultimately I'm there to help them.
Yeah, my cousin would come home and be like, dude, I could not connect with these tables. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, they were just a bunch of kids like in their 20s and they just they wouldn't look up from their phone. They wouldn't. They were literally on a Tinder matchup date, and they were on their phone on Tinder with their date, like looking at them. I was like, really? He's like, dude, it is disgusting. He goes, I only made like $10. He goes, so you're making like $3 something an hour. And he goes, you're supposed to survive off tips. He's like, I basically worked like for 12 hours, but it's basically 4 hours. Like it was like, there was nothing. And that's why I was like, oh, tipping should not be a thing. I mean, companies should just have to pay their wages to their, waiters and waitresses, like just an average amount, at least enough to survive off of, especially when you hear about how restaurants, some of them tip differently. Like a lot of them, they'll put all the tips together in a jar, then all the waiters and waitresses split it up at the end of the night. Who's to stop Jim with the 50,000 buttons decides to be an asshole one day to all his customers, makes $1 in tips, and I make 500, and I got to split my money with him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different. Okay, so there are places that they do house pools. Everybody tips pools together and things like that. And it really is up to you to leave a place like that or to, flourish in a place like that. I really, first of all, my philosophy, if I have a bad day, you have a bad day. If you have a bad 2 days, you have a bad 2 days. You have to take a look at the week. It's going to even out. You have to take a look at the month. It's going to even out. If you're in the macro worried about every single tip, you're going to have the good, the bad. People are going to tip extra and some people are going to tip nothing. you really can't get hung up on that. You just have to trust the process and the place that you work. And as long as you are there and you feel like you're supported by your management and ownership, everything's going to be all right. But I've worked at places that were pretty oppressive, and you just got to get the hell out of there. And if they don't care if you make money or not, that's not the place for you. So,
Have you ever seen the movie Still Waiting?
no. Admittedly, I have a very narrow movie interest, and I
This
don't.
movie will change what you think about the restaurant industry. It's with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, still waiting. It is.
Yes, Still Waiting. So
Okay.
they're basically at this restaurant and it shows the other side of like a regular restaurant. So they get this woman comes in and goes, I want to get, and like, it's like kind of acting like, the bitchy customer that you would get. And
Mm-hmm.
she grabs her food, goes, I asked for this to be cooked medium rare. This is well done. And then the waitress is just like, you could tell she wants to say something, but she goes, I'm so sorry about that. I'll take that back. And yeah, could you get us some more beverages and maybe be quick about it? And she's like, okay, I'll do that. And then they bring it in the back, guys, she was a total bitch. And then like Dane Cook's one of the chefs. So
Yeah, I think the movie's Waiting. I'm not sure.
yeah.
If it's Still Waiting
Yeah.
on
I
this.
think
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
the
I've
one.
seen it.
Yeah. So all right, does stuff like that actually happen?
No. I've been waiting tables since, oh my gosh, 1996, I want to say. And the amount of times that I've seen someone mess with anybody's food was twice.
What do they do in those times?
Um, I've seen someone drop something and not discard it like a roll. And the other time, what happened? Like it was something similar. It wasn't. I looked at the person. I was like, "Don't do that," But it doesn't happen a lot. Most people, they're afraid that they're messing with your food if you send it back. Stuff like I've never seen that as far as just because we're there to help and we want to make sure that you're happy. And so,
I
people
tried
that.
I tried joking with my buddy because he was acting like he was hungry, he was hangry, I would say. So he
Mhm.
was being like aggressive and I was like, dude, she's gonna mess with your food back there. And he's like, no, they won't do that. They won't do that. And he goes over and gets his burger and lifts it up. And it's like the melted like Parmesan cheese and like a little bit of bacon. Like you can tell there's grease on it. And he's like, it ended up turning into the Super Troopers episode where he's like, does that look like spit to you? And I'm like, it does. It looks like she hocked a big loogie on it. It didn't, but I just thought I would say it. And then he
Yeah.
just goes, whatever. And then just bites into it. I'm like, yeah, you're going to fucking eat it anyway, man. Like you're hungry right now. I can tell. And it's
Yeah.
like, I just think that's like when I saw that happen in the movie, I looked it up and then I started looking up all the regulations for like FDA and everything, because that's an extensive crime. That is like, it's basically contamination of someone's foods, practically like they consider it like assault on a person.
Yeah, I really, really have not seen that. And anybody that does that it's got to be, you got to have different coping mechanisms. Seriously.
Like, cause I know my brother, he was a busser for a while and he worked for this new restaurant and they didn't pay him for 3 weeks. And then he ended up leaving and he never got a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to like sue and everything and the restaurant ended up getting taken down. But I'm like, it all depends on who runs the business. I mean, a good story, like before, like how my parents met. My dad moved to Ocean City. My mom was here waitressing and at Hall's restaurant, which really sucks because it just got torn down like a month ago. So it was crazy because every time we'd pass, my mom would be like, that's where I met your father. Like he came up to my table one time when I was being a waitress and we ended up talking, sitting down. And the next thing you know, we started dating and then bam, And I was like, that's awesome. Cause like, that's a good story. And, she always remembers that when we go into a restaurant and I'm like, they're not together anymore, but it's just crazy to see like the stories and the life. Like one way you think, oh, I'm just going to be waitressing tables and I'm going to get something. And the next thing you know, you find something and then bam.
Yeah. I identify with that story. I met my ex-wife at the restaurant. So it's pretty cool. I mean, but then again, a lot of people connect at work. You spend most of your time there, and like Hannibal Lecter said, you covet what you see.
Yeah. I'd hate to relate my parents' love story to Hannibal Lecter, but
Oh.
but it's funny because it's just like we don't know what could happen to you one day. Like you could be gone, but your life could change either, probably for the better. Something could happen that could totally, completely change your interests in life.
Yes.
And it's crazy to see that can unfold. Like, I've always wondered about joining the restaurant business. I never got into it because I knew that I couldn't control myself around food. Like I'm a fitness freak, so I restrict
Okay.
my food enough. So being around anything like pizza or anything, I'm like, I'm not even gonna. That's like trying to let the devil into your house. Like, not happening. And my cousin's like, you just don't eat it. I'm like, dude, that's like being a chef. You don't really see a super, super skinny chef. A lot of the time they're a little bit big because what do? They try their own food.
Well, I mean, it's a good idea if you're worried that you're going to, be tempted to eat stuff that you don't really want to eat, then that makes sense.
Dude, if I make a pizza right in front of me, I'm telling you, there's no way I'm going to put it on a plate without a bite taken out of it.
Okay, so what do you eat?
I eat a lot of salads, tuna, a lot of basically anything out of the sea. Shark's butthole, put it on a plate. I'll eat it. I'll
Okay,
try
you eat
it.
a lot of seafood.
I eat a lot of vegetables,
Okay.
lots of fruit, very, very clean eating, chicken breast and stuff. If I eat, like I haven't eaten red meat in forever. And if I do, which makes it very hard to go out to eat anywhere because they always have burgers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like it just, if I eat like a quarter of a burger, I won't go to the bathroom for like a week.
Yeah.
If I smell like, a lot of like pasta and stuff, I get kind of sick to my stomach. So like
Mm-hmm.
people know in the house not to cook up pasta because that stuff reeks all over. But like there's just different things. I learned to avoid going out to eat because of calorie restriction. And I was like, I know a can of tuna is this much calories. I don't know how much it's going to be if I go and get a salad with chicken on it.
Okay.
So it's all about that's my own little way of like kind of got this like a little mental issue when it comes to like physical fitness and stuff, just because I pulled that out of high school from being bullied. But it was like, I found like it was also a waste of expense too. Like if I'm going out to eat or something, I didn't need to spend $60. I come from, we didn't have a whole lot. So it was like save everything you earn. Like every paycheck I get gets saved. Spending $5 on a t-shirt is not happening. That's too much. I'm like if I need it, I'll purchase it. But if I don't, it doesn't need to be in my life. And it's so that just eliminated going out to eat, because I remember my friends would go out to eat like, every night or something, just go to a restaurant, Applebee's, or they would just go there and get a bunch of drinks and party. And then next thing you know, they're like, dude, I spent freaking $100 last night. I was like, yeah, well, I saved that $100.
Well, you're unique because so many people don't even have the time to cook. So they eat out and they don't realize exactly what you're saying, the expense, and you don't know what when you cook at home, you know what you're eating. You know you get what you want, how you want it.
Yeah, the only person I've been able to really relate to with one of my friends is he's vegan. So when he goes to a restaurant, like I remember sitting there like, will you just fucking order something? And he's like, I'm looking, dude. And I'm like, it's going to have vegetables in it. It's going to be a salad. So look on the salads and find what you want. And he goes, I get that. Just give me a minute. So like 10 minutes later, a waitress comes over. He's asking her, I swear to God, like 50 questions.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, is this cooked by this? Is this going to be made like this? And I've talked to chefs about this on the podcast, and they say, oh, if it's a vegetarian or a vegan person, we take their food and salad in the back and prepare it. And we make sure it's all like cleaned out so they're not getting any meat contamination on it, because that is, you want to do it respectfully.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I know so many people, a lot of my friends that work in restaurants, and I know for a fact their lazy ass is not going in the back to prep your salad. They're going to cook it right next to whatever they're cooking it next to. And that's when you got to kind of rely your faith in people in a way, kind of to be able to respect you as a person. And, my buddy's a sushi chef. And I was telling him, I was like, because the process of all of it. And then I started looking up a all the authentic Chinese restaurants and all that. Because what do you think when you go out to eat? When you say you want Mexican, where do you go? You go somewhere that's authentic. And for authenticity for people is just to see the race of whatever they want to eat there. Like if they want to eat Mexican, they want to see a couple Mexicans cooking up their food. I'm like, but that's not always true, because I've had real authentic food at a place where it wasn't run by someone of that ethnicity. You know, a Chinese restaurant, there's a sushi chef who is white, but he was born in Japan and learned that lifestyle. And I was like, it's completely different. I think it's really, really strange too, when it comes to the atmosphere and also the connectivity with restaurants that a lot of people don't, understand. Like, I'm not dissing them entirely. I do see the benefit of it, especially like if you're with family and you want to go out and have a good time and just sit and talk. I mean, me and my grandfather and my grandma went out to dinner, first time in 4 years. And we sat there for 3 hours basically after the meal. And he tipped heavily because he felt bad that we were holding the spot and everything. But it was a slow night. It was raining outside. There was a total of 10 people in the restaurant. So we're just like, hey, let's just talk. And it was a great way to catch up.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Growing up for me, we didn't go out to eat a lot. It was always an occasion thing. And nowadays people go out to eat because they don't really want to cook or have the time and whatnot. I go out and I spend a lot of money going out to eat because I enjoy that whole, the atmosphere. I'll get a bottle of wine, even if the person I'm with isn't going to get wine. I always order a bottle for myself. Here, you could take it home, because I like to know that this wine was open today and I know it wasn't sitting around and I know exactly what I'm getting. So I don't really trust anybody to pour me a glass of wine, outside of like sitting at the bar doing that. And then I don't mind spending for certain ingredients and things like that. It's just, but I also don't do it all the time. I eat 90% of my meals at home. So I love to cook. I wouldn't say that I'm vegan, but I definitely don't eat red meat anymore. I don't eat chicken anymore, and I would occasionally eat seafood. But with seafood, you have to worry about the mercury and things like that, and fish. If the oceans are really, not very clean at the moment, so that's what's
contamination,
in the fish, so.
man. They had a giant fish scare recently. A bunch of tuna was infected from this lake they pulled out. They had to recall a bunch of a giant shipment of fish.
Yeah,
and it's like, just because there is a lot of things I think a lot of people don't realize is the power of what they're putting in their body. What it ends up leading into. I started realizing that when I was just eating giant bags of spicy nacho Doritos and washing it down with Red Bull and Mountain Dew in my high school years. And then when I took fitness seriously the summer of my, I think it was my junior year. So it's been about 7 years now. I've worked out every single day, have not missed one.
Okay.
And I noticed the complete change, because the first 2 weeks I went to the gym, I was sweating nothing but spicy nacho, to the point where I have not had a Dorito since. I literally and I had a bad experience with Fireball too. I drank a whole bottle of Fireball by myself, just watching a movie, and it just hit me. And then the next day I'm like, I feel really, really bad and I need to sweat this out somehow. So I went to the gym and ran 10 miles. I sweated cinnamon to the point where if I smell cinnamon now, like, you can't cook French toast around me. You can't do any of that. So like going out to breakfast, not happening.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think people realize, our bodies are meant to be perfect. So you have to put the perfect food for your body. And a lot of things that we put into our bodies aren't food. They may be constructed and look like things that you're used to eating, but it's not food.
Yeah, which sucks, because much like how you're saying, when you really didn't have a whole lot growing up, like for me, it was a lot easier for, one of my parents or something to stop at a fast food place, grab a McDonald's Happy Meal and put it on the table, rather than prepare something, especially when you work 2 jobs, you're only home 3 hours. I mean, this is where I rationalize like fast food a little bit. I definitely think that the economy obviously is not in the best of spots, and it sucks because a mother of three can't cook a meal for her kids if she works two jobs. The easiest option for her is to be able to go and get something quick that she can buy from like a fast food restaurant for her kids to eat, which really sucks. But it does rationalize it in a way. Like I know some people that are like, well, fast food's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, but there's not really any taste when it comes down to it. I mean, how often do you think people actually taste their food nowadays? Like the average everyday American, they really don't.
Well, they taste the okay. So that food's very much engineered, and you taste the salt, you taste the fat, you taste the carbs. I mean, you enjoy the carbs and things like that. Okay, so for me, it's a bigger question to answer more so than not having the time to cook and fast food and things. Okay, so look at it this way. It may seem, in my opinion, easier or cheaper to to order a fast food meal. Okay, definitely time wise, but in the end of it, you're because it's not healthy, because of what it does to your body, you end up spending more money on the back end because you're going to get colds. You don't look at all the medical things that you try to alleviate because you're eating things that your body's reacting to, and I know people that spend so much money on medication, on over the counter, on seeing the doctors, and those things add up that you don't really add that to your food bill. When you eat clean, or when you eat food, live food, plant-based food, you don't get the inflammation. Your body's not acidic, so it doesn't harbor the potential for diseases, and you just never get sick.
Yeah, I realized that when I went to the doctors and they put the little heart, to check your blood pressure and everything. They put that thing and they keep squeezing it. And I swear it feels like they're squeezing it too much. Like they're doing it so where it feels like your arm's about to pop off.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, that can't be right. I'm like, what? She goes, hold on a second. And then like adjusts it and then starts doing it again. She goes, you haven't it's like she said some number that was extremely in the healthy option, like actually a little bit below where she was like, this is a really healthy heart rate. And I was like, okay. And she was like, so what do you eat? Like, do you like, cause she thought I was just some kid that ate like and drank and ate burgers and stuff. And I'm like, but you could tell I'm fit. And she looks at me and she goes, so what do you eat? I'm like, fish, salads, nothing but clean stuff. I don't use a lot of, I try and watch what I eat too. And she goes, wow. She goes like, more kids should be like that. More people should be like that, because we have people that come in here and then end up like developing diabetes.
Yeah.
I started kind of, me and my cousin get along pretty well. Not the one that lived with me, but another one that's a couple months behind me. He's a diabetic. So he was born with diabetes. So his whole life has been watching his own food, like watching what he consumes and stuff. And it's crazy to see, because like him, choosing like healthier options or choosing some things, and kind of watching what he does with his food in a little bit in a way where you don't see most people do that anymore. And I had a theory about this with fast food. I was like, honestly, with all the type of conspiracies that come out about McDonald's, about cloning and doing all this stuff with their food, I'm like, obviously it's a benefit because we have a lot of people here consuming a lot of meat, and it's easier just to clone an animal or something, or put hormones in it to kind of increase how much you're getting from the animal, or even crops, which kind of rationalize GMOs. But they're also chemicals too. A lot of people don't understand that. Like when you go to a place or a grocery store and there's organic, that's not entirely 100% chemical free. There's just less chemicals in it than the average produce you'd be getting if it wasn't organic. That sticker doesn't make it clean. That sticker doesn't make it free. Sometimes there can be more GMOs in organic food than there actually is in the regular food. And what I started to realize was the only thing that really doesn't get a whole lot of contamination when it comes to chemicals and processing is in the seafood part. If you look at tuna, farm raised tuna, all these things, depending on where you get it from and the pollution of the water that's in that area, has the smallest amount of content when it comes to chemically processed. So looking at that, like when I was eating healthy and stuff, I was like, that's really strange. But I also notice if I eat like a burger or something from a store, or if I go to a restaurant and eat something from there, and then I came home, I wouldn't feel as well. I'd be a little bit more tired and sluggish. But if I went and got my own food, my own produce, cooked up everything, cleaned it, made sure it was all good, and then ate it, I felt better. I had more energy. It felt like
Yeah.
it didn't sit so heavy inside of my stomach.
Yeah, it's you know, there's nothing really, I don't want to say nothing, but just meat in general. Okay, so they're acidic causing foods that we consume a lot, right? So plain wheat, like that you'll find in white breads, um, meat, red meat in particular, roasted nuts, fish to a degree. The way that your body ends up processing them, it'll cause you to be acidic, and your body's meant to be neutral to alkaline. Okay. So then, sugar, processed foods, fatty foods, fried foods, they all are acidic causing. So
Yeah,
no matter
but they're
what you,
so damn good.
yeah, but by saying so damn good, it's saying, oh, I'm so damn used to it.
Yeah, that's the thing. See, it's funny because if you ask, like, spaghetti and meatballs, you would consider that an Italian dish, correct? Maybe, maybe
Yeah,
not
you
you
would.
per se, but the average person would be
Most
like, "Oh,
people, yeah.
that's a spaghetti and a meatballs. That's Italian." And you're just like, "No, it's not." And like, "What do you mean? No, it's not." Go to Italy. They don't eat spaghetti and meatballs. They don't
Yeah.
do that. They don't. They don't. And the food there, like pasta there, is completely different from pasta here. I work at a hotel, so we get foreign students that come by from Romania, Bulgaria, and which much like you see in a restaurant.
Hmm.
And they literally go here, your food is shit. I'm like, what do you mean our food's shit? And he goes, it's terrible. Like the potatoes, and they're critiquing potatoes. I'm like, potatoes a bland ass food. He goes, no, 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 no. An American potato is bland ass food. You guys
Sure.
cover it with so much and it's so processed, it makes you feel like crap. And that's why you guys are lethargic. And I was like, man, I really want to just protect America here, but you're not wrong. You're really not. I mean, if you go to another country, everything's different there. The food styles, going to an actual place and getting a style of food we would consider is completely different.
Yeah, we allow so much to be in our regular diet that it's really scary.
So back to my theory on fast food with this cloning and all this stuff with GMOs. So I
Hmm.
think like they could honestly, like, when people eat fast food, they're just shoving it down their face. People don't enjoy actual flavor anymore. So I was like, what, like, how far is it to the point where they can just literally, it's like they just put like a glob of paste, form it into a patty, and they just put it on a burger and you're eating it. And it's still they just inject like taste things into it. So it makes it taste like a burger, but it's not actually a burger. There's just no nutritional value. I was like, you'd still paint it. You'd still eat it. Like if they just painted a pile of shit, made it smell nice and gave it to you on a bun, you'd still eat it. And you wouldn't think twice about it. You'd be like, oh, that's what a McDonald's burger tastes like. Yep, that's good. I enjoyed it. It's like, but I saw it with my grandma when she would sit on the back porch eating potato chips out of a bowl, eating one at a time of salt and vinegar. I
Hmm.
looked at her as a kid like, how are you just not grabbing a handful of those things and eating them? She's like, I'm enjoying it. She would sit there and suck on the potato chip. And I was like, what? And then like I tried it and I was like, oh, we're being quick a lot in our lives. We need to slow down on some major things.
And the major benefit of actually enjoying your food. Okay, so when you engage with your food, you produce more saliva. You chew your food, which starts the digestive enzymes, and it gives the process where you realize that you're full. Sometimes when you eat so fast, your body doesn't get a chance to say, hey, I'm full, because it takes time for it to actually become full and then send the signal to your brain. So we bypass that so much. And then we do that time and time again, eating fast, eating on the run, and not engaging with our food, not chewing our food, so our food doesn't get digested. We have all kinds of digesting problems, and it's you're exactly right. You need to get intimate with your food, enjoy it, take
Some
your
people get a
time.
little bit too intimate, but to the point where it's not like they're sitting there enjoying it. They're just shoving it down their face and be creating bonding relationships to it. Like I went to school for chemical dependency and also dealing with addiction. And then it turned into psychology. And then it was all about like, we're all addicted to something. We're all looking, and you get dopamine, you get serotonin from food. You get these
Mhm.
types of things that, especially like for someone like me, when I get done with a workout, my body is raging with cortisol. So
Mhm.
it's that recovery process. So I'm literally looking for a meal. Like I tell anybody when I get home from the gym, do not be in the fucking kitchen. And they said, why? I'm like, because I am rushing to find something to eat because I am basically starving. Like I'll usually not eat before I go or something, or I'll eat like something small, then I'll work out for like 2 to 3 hours. When I come home, I want food like immediately, like before you even talk to me. And it's crazy because like they're like, oh, I get it. But I was like, if you ever have been hangry to the point where like you just don't want anybody to say anything to you until you get something in your stomach, that's what it is. But we create this bonding relationship with food and religious behavior with food. It's all because we're trying to fill something that it can't be filled really with food. You know what I mean? It's like a Band-Aid over a long-term issue.
Yeah, that's that's well said. It's excuse me. It's some people do have a relationship with food, and they substitute food for a lot of things because of the love they get back from the food, so to speak. That chemical response, whether it's eating chocolate. That's why so many people eat these things that are comfort food. They have those addictive qualities, whether it's sugar, fat, simple carbohydrates, and you got to fall in love with another thing because it just does not leave you in a good place.
And I swear it's a better kind of feeling too when you're able to cook your own meal and then not use a whole lot of dressings and go overboard. Like when I was a kid, dude, my grandma would make dino chicken nuggets. And then I would take a bottle of the Ken's Steakhouse honey mustard syrup and it would be like soup when I was done with it. She's like, you're just eating honey mustard at this point. I'm like, yeah, and it's fucking delicious. And it really, like when I got older and started realizing like, oh, I kind of eliminated honey mustard. First of all, looking at the calorie intake of it, I was like, damn, that's like 2,000 calories every dinner. And I
Yeah.
was like, over just a couple nuggets too. But then I was like, I'm not even getting the taste either. It's just tasting like honey mustard. Like we do a lot of things to dull the original flavor of food. And once I started eating clean, I started realizing the variety and the widespread flavors that were enriching my spice cabinet. Like from cumin, making it taste a lot like Taco Bell, that kind of
Hmm.
spice. Like I was like, I literally can dump that on my salad and I can taste like I'm eating Taco Bell. Then I found out oregano makes it taste like Domino's pizza.
That's
Just
pretty
because
cool.
of all the oregano they cook in the crust made it literally taste like that. I was like, this is perfect. It's curbing the cravings. And I'm like, this is amazing to have. And it's like a lot of people don't even take the time to realize that. They don't go outside of their knowledge or their comfort zone.
What do you do to work for working out?
I work, oh, dude, like this morning I was up at 2 a.m. and I went to the gym and burned 1,600 calories and then came home and, ate a little bit of breakfast. And then next thing I know, I'm talking to you.
Okay, I mean, but you burn how? What's your routine? What
Depends
do
on
you
the
burn?
day. I usually work out a muscle group every single day. And then if I'm having like a bad day or if I have like what I call like a cheat day, if I have like 3 or 4 French fries before, like the night before, I'll go to the gym the next day and burn off more. So I'll go twice. Like I'll go twice today.
Okay.
Like I said, I pulled a little bit of emotional scarring when it came out from being bullied really bad.
Mhm.
I adapted really an addiction to the gym. And then when I got shredded down and had a 6-pack, I had a lot of people that used to make fun of me um, ask me for advice to get them their lives better because once they graduated, their bodies didn't stay the same. They didn't have the fitness aspect to them anymore. They had a beer gut now, like, and they're all like having kids and stuff. And I kind of stayed with a 6-pack. And I was like, it's not easy, but I'm more than willing to help you get the tools. Like a lot of nutrition I studied on because I wanted to know more about it, on the constant feeling of I wanted to make sure I could stay the way I love constantly, keep it all year round. And it does become a little bit obsessive sometimes. I do get something I'm still overcoming to this day, a little bit of body dysmorphia. But like I had a buddy lose 60 pounds in 6 months. I just gave him the best advice. He's Italian. I said, "You're Italian, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Stop eating fucking bread and pasta." And he goes, "Is that it?" I'm like, "And just exercise a little bit a day and you'll be good." Next thing I know, he's down 60 pounds, taking selfies of himself, really enjoying his look and loving it. And I'm like, I'm willing to help you because I understand we're all in this world trying to make it and survive. It's not easy. It's not fun, but we're all here together. And if we create a hostile environment, not taking the time to get to know one another, we're just making it an even worse place.
What were your pain points in the bullying? Were you
just being overweight, I guess,
Okay.
it was like a kind of just bullying as a kid. I mean, I hate to say it, but it is a benefit because without it, I wouldn't have become the fit person or, healthy lifestyle I live today. And also the person who I've become. You have to experience a little bit of hardship to kind of get you through somewhere. I'm pretty sure you probably experienced a little bit of bullying in your life or maybe a little bit of hardship when it comes to like family stuff.
Everybody does. I don't really record it as hardship. The life cycles and rhythms. You're really not going to always feel like, oh my gosh, I'm on cloud nine. To be able to be on the top of the mountain, you have to experience the valley. There has to be some void there as well. And I've dealt with my own issues, but every hardship or every challenge or it leaves you with trying to figure out who are you and who do you want to become, and the people that don't really give themselves the opportunity to be introspective and actually be proactive and do things about it. And they think, oh, it's someone else's. Oh, you did this. You did this. You just have to think that you are the person that is responsible for your life. It's not your fault that you were bullied, but you did something about it. It's your responsibility to choose who you want to
Yeah,
be.
evolve over a situation too. A lot of people like this is what's good about meditation and things of this sort. Even though I don't do it, I can understand it because we're all trying to find something of what we want to do or want to be in this life. And we take advice from others and then we choose to get comfortable until we forget about us and our true passion for something.
Mm-hmm.
I try and tell people like, if the gym's not for you, then that's fine. You don't have to do it. You don't have to live what the norm or the trend is nowadays. It changes all the time. I'm like, if you feel like that's something you need at your moment, try it out. If you don't think it's for you, then that's okay. But just understand that results don't come quick. They come over lots of, trying at it and keep on persisting forward to it. The power of consistency.
Yeah.
And it's like every day is a journey, man. Fitness is like a roller coaster. I can relate so much stuff to life where you don't have to really relate it to fitness. But for me, that's the easiest because it's been one of the things I've been constant of. And, like I'm really bad with authority. So like when I was taking fitness, my dad was like, if you give up on it, just let me know so I can stop paying for it. I'm like, I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to stick with this then. And I stuck with it and, ended up, knowing the owner so much. She's like, you're here every single day. You just want to work out for free? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I understand. Like, this is something you need. And I was like, thank you. And she's become really close into my life. I have a key to our gym now. And
Okay.
it's like, she trusts me that much. And it's because like, I respect that place. Like it's my home when I walk in there. There are days I don't want to go home. Obviously I have my moments. I'm like, I don't feel like fucking working out right now, but I do it because I feel like I have to, but still I feel so much better afterwards when I'm driving home, listening to a little bit of music and I'm getting ready to go home and eat something. Like, I'm like ready. I'm like, damn, like there was this giant weight on my shoulders that just got relieved when I picked up that dumbbell or, I grabbed that weight. I felt it. Like I put all my pressure into that, and that's gone. It's like having a therapy session, much like podcasting can be. I've talked to people that their life has increased ever since they started a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if their voice is important. It doesn't matter if whatever they have to say has to be heard. If they just want to talk and bullshit, it's a great sense of relief. You want to have that therapy session. And a lot of times people don't want to go to someone to talk it out. They don't want to feel like they're complaining or being needy, but it's like, you shouldn't have to pay someone to listen to your problems. I know I wanted to be a therapist for a while, and I was like, that's really weird how I'd want to be a therapist considering I have a little bit of mental anxiety when it comes to being being fat as a kid. And it's like, no, if you look at all therapists, they actually suffer from a mental disorder. And the weirdest ironic part about it is they can diagnose somebody else, but they can't diagnose themselves. The only thing they can't fix is themselves, is because you can't really give your mind insight on itself. You just can't. You know yourself better than anybody else, but you need that outside opinion to help you out. It's seen all the time that there's a therapist, people that are interested in psychology and trying to go for a master's degree that I've podcasted with and have a master's degree. They're like, yeah, I suffer from severe anxiety. And they get over that by becoming who they are, by finding who they want to be or what they feel like they want to be. Sometimes your biggest problem, your biggest obstacle in life is the thing that's keeping you from your passion. It's actually the key to your passion.
Mm-hmm. It's well, wheeling back to why people may or may not go to the gym. I think there's certain fundamental things in life in order to be healthy, whether it's physically, mentally, and things like that.
You need time.
You need time, and you need to really find what works best for you. So admitting that not everyone is going to even work out the same, even if they go to the gym. Sometimes people just like doing sports or walking or running. You just have to try things to find your authentic you. And, meditation does help because I don't think some people are in control of their own mind speak. So meditation really helps you to be at a baseline where you can, when you do have toxic mind speak, you can clear that out without having to react to it. And it's very powerful, and that's helped me. So I didn't really have, I went through, bouts of working out intensely for a long time. And it was me finding myself. I was very thin as a kid. So I was pretty much the opposite of you. So I can't make any assumptions for what your journey has been. I was never really bullied, but my identity really came from being, it's called like skinny. For most part, men are meant to be or held to be a certain way. They're protectors, or they're certain look, they're a certain weight, and considered skinny can be an insult.
Yeah, they call you a string bean. It's funny because when I slimmed up, everyone started calling me too skinny. I was like, fuck you. I was like, fuck. I was so pissed. And then like how it is now, I'm lean. I'm not a big bulky guy. I'm just lean. Yeah. And it's funny because they'll be like, you're too skinny. Why don't you put some meat on them bones? I remember when my grandma said that to me, I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, are you kidding me? Before it was watch what you eat. Now it's why don't you eat more? It's like, we never win? Like women talking about never winning. I'm like, it's the same thing with guys. We live in a world that's judged by looks. That's why people turn to the gym. People are judging what a person's appearance is, whether it's their clothes, whether it's their body style, whether, this or that. And it's all because there's something going on in our lives where we're trying to divert our attention from. That's why I tell people, do you really want to get into the gym, or you just think that's what everybody's doing, so that's what you should be doing? You're like, well, I want to look good. Okay, well, can you look good? But are you going to stick with it? Do you want to put the time and effort into doing that? Or you could be doing something else to benefit you, because looking good doesn't mean you have to be in a gym. Looking good can mean a multitude of factors, such as watching what you eat, such as doing maybe instead of, if you like fishing, going out and doing fishing. That's an exercise. Okay. You're working muscles, you're working things. And a lot of people, like, I just try and tell them, like, stick with it for 2 weeks. If you don't stick with it for 2 weeks, is only the hardest part of it is the 2 weeks, because that's when you want to give up. And then after that, it just becomes an everyday thing. And if it doesn't for you, that means your passion lies somewhere else. It's not easy every day to go, but I make it happen. I always make sure it happens, whether it's Christmas Day and it's snowing and it's a blizzard outside. I'll still go to the gym, get my time in where I can. And it's just overall became a release off the back of my mind, like a form of meditation for somebody else. That's how I clear my thoughts, when I can listen to something like music or a podcast and be able to kind of relieve my stress from the day, where I can come home and have a natural conversation with someone.
Yeah. I don't think looking good is a strong enough why. I used to train people, and one of the biggest frustrations in training people is they'll pretty much waste your time, and I can't stand that. So I interview them, and if their why isn't strong, if there's a deep reason why they really want to change their bodies or their lives, I won't take them on.
Yeah,
But I don't train anymore. But
a strong why would be like, hey, my foot is numb. The doctor says it's going to get cut off if I don't change my weight. That's a good why. But someone just going, I want to look good so I can get chicks. Okay. All right, bro. Okay.
Yeah, there's got to be more to it than that, because they're not gonna go a lot. And when they reach a certain plateau, which isn't a goal, but they are fitting into something, they're gonna quit.
This is why I wanted to be a social worker at one point. I wanted to help kids that were getting bullied and dealing with these types of things too. Not trying to, like, what people do now is like, oh, that kid needs to be banned from school. That kid needs to be this and that because he made fun of my kid. No. Realize that this is going to happen. This has happened throughout history. Kids pick on each other. This is what happens. The problem is the way that we've taken with technology and all these things that weren't a resource back in like my parents' day. You get your ass kicked in school now, it's on 80 different phones getting sent around and posted on multiple websites. Next thing you know, you're on World Star Hip Hop. Then back in the day, you got your ass kicked. That tension lasted a week, man. That was it. And then next thing you know, it was something else that was new in the news going around the school. People are known to judge each other. This is it's an adopted human characteristic, because we kind of picked this up. Nobody's born really to do this. But you're also like, it's the same reason why if you're sitting in a room with a guy, the first thing you do in your mind subconsciously is size him up. It's not like, oh, at any point can this happen? It's more like, who's the alpha here? It's that alpha intent, that primal instinct in us all. It's the same thing with females. It goes down deep into our genetics. That's just us as humans, which we've glossed over now. But we have these other factors that are adding in, such as things with social media, where kids are experiencing anxiety at the age of 12 because they're afraid that if they do something stupid or something that would be considered goofy, they could be put on, YouTube or something, and then someone's laughing at them and making fun of them. And it's like, it created an open world to a whole door of demons.
Maybe so. I mean, I think all those are teachable moments. When things go sideways, they're teachable moments, in my opinion. And I think more people need to learn that they're independent of the good and bad opinions of other people. And so, I get like, oh, you're too skinny, or you're this or that, whenever I change the way I eat. I live for myself. I know what I need, and I don't need the approval of anyone else. And it took me a long time to understand that. So those teachable moments, sometimes you really have to, you came through some hardship. And that's important, because whenever the next hardship comes, you know that your baseline and your tolerance is much higher than someone who was babied or never had to deal with anything, or even worse, never dealt with it in the right way. You just lash out and just, oh, I'm going to deal with it with violence or with hatred or with this or that. You're really not getting in touch with who you are or how you can actually do things effectively. And you're going to be chasing tilting at windmills for the rest of your life, because you don't really have that fortitude to deal with anything.
That's why I said bullying. I didn't want to say it, but is a benefit because, it's made me stronger as a person. I wouldn't trade back any of those moments that when I was a kid, I wish would just go away. I wouldn't trade back any of those times. Bruce Lee said it best, like, God gave you this life because you're the only one that is tough enough to survive it. You're fit for your own problems. My problems wouldn't be fit for you. Your problems wouldn't be fit for me. We're built to be able to overcome these things. And it's the test of one's strength to see them do that. But a lot of people choose an easy option and, you get something like depression or suicide that happens. I know countless stories of people that committed suicide over bullying, and it was because they thought there was no end. And they understand that once it's all going to pass, it takes time and it's going to be hell to get there, but you're going to end up coming out on the other end, hopefully stronger for what happened to you.
And you have to make sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, you have to go ahead.
You have to make some decisions, I believe, and maybe not in every situation. I believe things in life happens for you, not necessarily to you. So when you realize that it happens for you, you can do something about it. You did something about it. You have to think about things. You have to adapt and change and improve and pivot. All these things aren't just always going to happen because, oh my gosh, it's going to work out. Yeah, it's going to work out with work, with dedication, with overcoming. And it's there for a reason. It's there to teach you how to deal with this. And then guess what? Once you are able to deal with it, life's going to throw something else at you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better myself, dude. I definitely think it's all about pursuit, man. We're all trying to find something. We can't let one thing stop us because there'll always be that one thing. There's always going to be another new problem. It's just a problem with people who they problem solve by ignoring a problem or pushing it away. It's just pushing it to the next problem. Then you're getting hit with double the problems. You're not problem solving effectively. We're living in a world where a lot of times it feels like the easiest answer is just to gloss over it or forget about it. And sometimes that's where the biggest change sets in. And sometimes it's change for the better. It's, like for me, I ended up being an introvert, and then I ended up figuring out that's not how I wanted to live and started communicating with more people. And there's been a benefit for it. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but we end up getting there, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Agreed. It's well said by you. I too was an introvert, and then I ended up going into debates and things like that. You have to decide. I think that's the biggest thing. People don't always decide, and once you realize you make a decision, it takes work. You go after it. You figure it out. You find out, how can I do this? How can I be better? Oh my gosh, this might not have been good, the best for me, but hey, at least I tried it.
Exactly. Well, you know what, Marlon? It's been awesome having you on the podcast, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this.
You're welcome. No problem.
I want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content too, because I want people to find your podcast as well.
I appreciate that. I am pretty active on Instagram, the Modern Waiter Podcast. And if you want to email me with any questions or show suggestions, I am TheModernWaiter at gmail.com. And my website and podcast is The Modern Waiter Podcast. Pretty simple. And our 1-year anniversary is coming up in November. So we do a weekly podcast. And I say we. I'm the Modern Waiter, and my friend and producer, Danny, he's usually joined me in studio. And we do about 20% guests, and mostly it's us, and we have different subjects on the restaurant business. And it might be interesting to people who aren't in the business. Check it out and let us know how you like it.
Right on. Thanks for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.